The sun climbs higher, casting a warm glow over the beach. Emily sits on a driftwood log, her sketch pad balanced on her knees. She sketches the waves, but her lines are distracted, her mind still lingering on the encounter with James. A shadow falls over her page.
James.
Holding 2 steaming cups of coffee. Thought you might like a refill.
Emily.
Surprised but smiling. You didn't have to do that. James. Grinning as he hands her a cup.
Call it a bribe.
For the sketch of me riding that wave. Emily laughs, taking the coffee gratefully. Emily. You're persistent, aren't you? James. Pretending to think. I prefer determined. They sit in companionable silence for a moment, sipping coffee and watching the waves. Emily. Do you surf every morning? James. When I can. There's something about the ocean. It clears your mind, puts everything in perspective. Emily. Sincerely. I get that. The ocean feels like a blank canvas, always changing, always something new to discover. James studies her for a beat, intrigued by her perspective.
James.
Softly. What are you trying to discover? Emily hesitates, caught off guard by the question. She looks out at the horizon, her expression distant. Emily. I'm not sure. Maybe a sense of purpose? I came here to get away from everything, to figure out what I really want.
James.
Sincerely, I think you're on the right track. You've got the sunrise, the sketch pad, and now, a surf coach if you're up for it. Emily. Laughing. A surf coach? I've never even touched a surfboard.
James.
Mock serious. It's never too late to start. Come on, I'll teach you the basics. Emily. Pretending to be reluctant. Fine, but if I wipe out, you're to blame. Later, that evening, Emily and James sit around a small fire pit on the beach. The flames crackle as the sun sets, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. Emily. I still can't believe I actually stood up on the board.
James.
Teasing. And didn't even fall right away. I'm impressed. They share a laugh, their connection deepening. Emily glances at James, her expression thoughtful. Emily. Thank you for today. It's been a while since I felt this, alive. James. Earnestly. You've got a spark, Emily. Don't let it go out. Their eyes meet, the moment charged with unspoken emotions. As the first stars begin to appear, Emily looks down at her sketch pad. Emily. Softly. Maybe tomorrow, I'll sketch you riding a wave. James smiles, his gaze lingering on her.
James. I'd like that.
The next morning, the sun rises again, casting a golden glow over the beach. Emily is already there, sitting cross-legged with her sketch pad. She flips through her drawings, pausing at a half-finished sketch of James teaching her to surf. A small smile crosses her face. James. From behind. You start early. Emily jumps slightly, turning to see James walking up, his surfboard tucked under one arm. Emily. You seem to have a habit of sneaking up on me. James. Grinning. Or maybe you're just too focused. What are you working on? Emily hesitates for a moment, then holds up her sketch pad. James looks at the drawing, his expression softening. James. That's incredible. You've got talent, Emily. Emily. Blushing. It's just a sketch. James. It's more than that. It's like you captured the whole moment, more than just the image. Emily looks at him, a bit startled by the depth of his comment. Emily. Maybe I'll finish it today. James. Devious grin. Or maybe you'll join me in the water again. Emily. Laughing. You're relentless.
James.
I prefer determined, remember? Emily shakes her head, amused, but closes her sketch pad and stands. As James jogged off, Emily watched his retreating figure until he disappeared among the throng of beachgoers. She tucked her sketch pad close, a faint smile lingering on her face. She turned back to her sketch, but her thoughts kept drifting. Who was this charming stranger? And why did it feel like their brief exchange had sparked something unexpected? Later that afternoon, as the sun began to dip lower in the sky, Emily found herself drawn to the shoreline. She left her sketch pad behind and wandered barefoot, letting the cool waves lap at her toes. Just as she lost herself in the rhythm of the ocean, a familiar voice broke through her thoughts. James, calling out, "So, do I get extra credit if I show up twice in one day?" Emily turned, startled, to see James walking toward her with 2 ice cream cones in hand. Emily, laughing, "You're persistent, aren't you?" James, grinning, "Let's just say I like to finish what I start. Thought you might need a break from all that sketching." He handed her one of the cones, a perfectly swirled vanilla with rainbow sprinkles. Emily, bribery with ice cream? Bold move. James, desperate times. Besides, it's a hot day, and you look like you could use some sugar. They strolled along the water, ice cream in hand, their conversation flowing easily. Emily found herself opening up about her love for art, how it gave her a sense of freedom and peace she couldn't find elsewhere. James shared snippets of his life, too, his love for running, his job as a firefighter, and his knack for always finding himself in amusing situations. As they reached a rocky outcrop at the edge of the beach, James paused, gesturing for them to sit. James, thoughtfully, "You know, I wasn't kidding earlier. You've got real talent. Ever thought about doing something more with it?" Emily, shrugging, "Sometimes. But it feels safer as a hobby. No pressure. No expectations." James, "No reward either, though. Sometimes the best things in life happen when you step out of your comfort zone." His words struck a chord, and Emily found herself mulling over the possibilities. Before she could respond, a sudden gust of wind sent her hair flying. James reached out instinctively, brushing a strand from her face. The unexpected closeness sent her heart racing. For a moment, the world seemed to pause, the waves crashing in the background as they locked eyes. James, softly, "Rain, check on that sketch? I'm starting to think I wouldn't mind sitting still if it means spending more time with you." Emily's cheeks flushed, but she managed to smile. Emily, teasing, "Careful, you're starting to sound like a muse." They both laughed, the tension breaking, but the spark between them lingered. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, Emily realized that this unexpected encounter might just be the beginning of something extraordinary. A walk along the shore. Later that night, the bonfire starts to dwindle, and people begin to scatter. Emily and James linger by the fire, now burning low, their conversation uninterrupted. James, looking at the waves, "Do you feel like walking for a bit?" Emily, nodding, "Yeah, let's." They stroll along the shoreline, their footsteps leaving faint imprints in the wet sand. The sound of the ocean fills the pauses in their conversation. Emily, looking up at the stars, "I can't remember the last time I actually stopped to look at the night sky." James, pointing, "That's Orion and there's the North Star. My dad used to teach me constellations when I was a kid." Emily, softly, "He sounds like someone you looked up to." James hesitates, his gaze on the horizon. James, quietly, "He passed away a few years ago. But yeah, he was." Emily stops walking, her hand lightly touching his arm. Emily, "I'm sorry." James, with a faint smile, "It's okay. He'd love this place." They walk on in silence for a moment, the intimacy growing as the waves lap at their feet. A late-night confession. Returning to the bonfire, they find it reduced to glowing embers. Only a few people remain, quietly talking or gazing at the ocean. Emily retrieves her sketchbook, flipping through pages filled with detailed drawings. James, curious, "Can I see?" Emily hesitates but nods, handing him the book. James, flipping through, "These are incredible. You've captured so much. It's like the moments are alive." Emily, blushing, "Thanks. It's just something I do." James pauses on a page, showing a sketch of a young girl sitting under a tree, her face a mixture of longing and sadness. James, softly, "Who's this?" Emily, quietly, "That's me. When I was a kid." James looks at her, sensing there's more to the story. James and Emily, sighing, "I used to sit under that tree whenever things got too hard at home. Drawing was my escape." James, earnestly, "You're brave to share that." Emily looks at him, her expression softening. Emily, "You make it easy." The morning after, as the sun rises, casting golden light across the beach, Emily and James are sitting on a large rock, watching the waves. Neither of them has slept, too caught up in each other's stories. James, grinning. So, what's next for you, Emily the artist? Emily, laughing, probably a lot more coffee. And maybe more moments like this. James, playfully, you mean with me? Emily, smiling, you never know. The camera pulls back, revealing the wide expanse of the beach, the fire now completely extinguished, and the two figures on the rock, silhouetted against the rising sun. Emily pulls back slightly, her cheeks flushed, and a soft smile playing on her lips. Emily, softly, I wasn't expecting this. James, smirking, neither was I. But sometimes, the unexpected is exactly what we need. They continue walking along the shore, their hands brushing occasionally until James takes hers in his. The warmth of his touch sends a comforting energy through her. Emily, looking down, I haven't told you everything. James, pausing, you don't have to rush. I'm here when you're ready. Emily stops walking and gazes out at the horizon where the moonlight dances on the waves. Emily, quietly, a few months ago, I was engaged. James looks at her, surprised but patient. Emily, continuing, it ended badly. I thought I'd found the person I was meant to be with, but it turns out I was just holding on to an idea of love, not the real thing. James, after a moment, and coming here was your way of letting go? Emily, nodding, yes. And maybe finding myself again. James squeezes her hand gently, his expression softening. James, you're brave, you know. Emily, laughing nervously, I don't feel brave. James, smiling, bravery isn't about not being afraid. It's about facing what scares you and moving forward anyway. Emily looks at him, her heart stirring at his words. Emily, with a small smile, what about you? What brought you here? James, shrugging lightly, a fresh start. I needed to step away from my life back home. All the noise, all the pressure. Here, I feel free. They walk in silence for a moment, their connection deepening in the quiet understanding they share. Suddenly, James stops and picks up a small, smooth stone from the shore. James, do you know how to skip stones? Emily, grinning, not very well. James, playfully, then you're about to learn from the best. He shows her how to hold the stone, and together, they practice. Emily's first few attempts are clumsy, but soon, she manages a perfect skip across the water. Emily, laughing, did you see that? James, teasing, beginner's luck. They share a laugh, the sound blending with the rhythmic crash of the waves. As the night deepens, they sit on the sand, leaning against each other, watching the stars twinkle above. Emily, whispering, do you think we're really lucky to be here? James, gazing at her, I do. And I think I'm even luckier to be here with you. Emily turns to him, her eyes reflecting the starlight. Emily, maybe starting over isn't so scary after all. James smiles, and they sit together. The vast ocean and endless sky, they're only witnesses to the fragile, beautiful beginning of something new. As the sun fully ascends, Emily and James start walking along the shoreline, their feet sinking slightly into the cool, wet sand. Seagulls call in the distance, and the waves roll gently against the shore. James, glancing at her, do you think it's really that simple? Just starting over? Emily, nodding, I think it has to be. We can't undo the past, but we can choose what we do next. James stops walking, gently tugging on her hand to make her stop too. He looks out at the horizon, the sunlight reflecting in his eyes. James, I've spent so much time looking back. What if I mess this up too? Emily steps closer, placing her free hand on his arm. Emily, you won't, because this time we have each other. They share a moment of silence before continuing down the beach. As they walk, the camera pans to their footsteps in the sand, side by side, disappearing with the tide. Coffee shop. Later that morning, Emily and James sit at a small table, a map spread out between them. The sound of the coffee grinder hums in the background. Emily points to a location on the map. Emily, here. This is where we'll start. James, raising an eyebrow, a vineyard? Emily, laughing, not just any vineyard. It's small, family-owned. They need help, and it's far away from everything we're leaving behind. James leans back in his chair, studying her face. James, you really thought this through. Emily, grinning, someone had to. James, chuckling, all right, I'm in. But only if you promise to let me handle the heavy lifting. Emily, deal. They clink their coffee mugs together, sealing their agreement. The road trip. Highway day. Emily and James drive down an open road in an old pickup truck, their belongings piled in the back. The radio plays a classic rock tune, and the windows are rolled down. Emily, singing along, off-key, don't stop believin'. James, laughing, you're terrible. Emily, pretending to be offended, excuse me? This is art. She cranks up the volume, and they both burst into laughter. The camera captures the landscape shifting as they drive. Rolling hills, fields of sunflowers, and eventually, rows of grapevines stretching toward the horizon. Vineyard, late afternoon. Emily and James arrive at the vineyard, greeted by an elderly couple, Martha and Henry, who own the property. Martha, smiling warmly, you must be Emily and James. Welcome. Henry, shaking James's hand, hope you're ready to get your hands dirty. James, grinning, we wouldn't have it any other way. The camera lingers on Emily and James as they take in the vineyard, the golden sunlight casting a warm glow over the rows of vines. Emily, whispering to James, this feels like the right place. James, nodding, it does. They exchange a look filled with hope and determination as the scene fades out. Cottage night. Emily and James settle into a cozy guest cottage on the vineyard grounds. The small space is rustic but inviting, with wooden beams, a stone fireplace, and a single window overlooking the vines. Emily unpacks a box of kitchen essentials while James sets up a lamp. Emily, playfully, I call dibs on the bigger closet. James, mocking disbelief, bigger? There's barely enough space for one closet here. Emily, grinning, then I'll take it all. James laughs, tossing a pillow at her. As they settle in, a knock on the door interrupts their playful banter. Martha stands outside, holding a basket of fresh bread, cheese, and a bottle of wine. Martha, thought you might want a little taste of the vineyard tonight. Emily, beaming, this is so kind of you. Martha, smiling, tomorrow, the real work begins.
Get some rest.
A day in the life. Vineyard morning. Emily and James join the vineyard workers, pruning vines under the warm morning sun. James struggles with the technique, fumbling with the shears. James, muttering, how is this harder than fixing an engine? Emily bursts into laughter as Henry walks over, demonstrating the correct way to trim the vines. Henry, grinning, it's not about strength, it's about precision. Emily picks it up quickly, teasing James as he continues to struggle. Emily, smirking, looks like I'm the natural here. James, mocking defeat, okay, you win this round. The day continues with James learning how to operate the old tractor while Emily works with Martha in the vineyard's small processing shed. They both find themselves sweating, laughing, and immersed in the rhythm of vineyard life. Quiet reflections. Vineyard hilltop sunset. As the day winds down, Emily and James climb a hill overlooking the vineyard. They sit side by side on a blanket, sipping glasses of wine made from the vineyard's harvest. Emily, softly, it feels good being here, like we're part of something real. James, nodding, it's different. Honest, I needed this. Emily, looking at him, so did I. The camera pans out, capturing the vibrant sunset colors reflected in their glasses. A light breeze rustles the vines below, symbolizing the start of something lasting. The challenge. Vineyard office, day. A few weeks later, Emily and James sit with Martha and Henry, reviewing the vineyard's finances. Martha, worried, the last few years have been tough. If we don't find a way to increase sales, we might not make it to the next harvest. James exchanges a look with Emily, determination in his eyes. James, then let's figure it out. Emily, nodding, we've got fresh eyes and a lot of energy. Let us help. Martha hesitates but eventually nods, her hope rekindled. Beach sunrise. Months later, Emily and James return to the beach, where their journey began. This time, they sit with Martha and Henry, sharing a bottle of wine from the successful harvest. Emily, raising her glass, to new beginnings and the people who make them possible. James, smiling, and to sticking together no matter what. The camera pulls back, capturing the four of them silhouetted against the rising sun. The sound of waves fades as the screen transitions to black.